Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Let's take a look at Grupo Cybest, whatever that is. New York Stock Exchange bell ringing. Folks are smiling, happy. Things are going good on Wall Street, folks. Again today, Dow Jones up about 175 points. Looks like S&P up a touch, 4 points. NASDAQ loser today, down about 80 points or so. Quiet day on Wall Street. Again, these summer doldrums, sure, but volume is absolutely quieted down. People are waiting to see what comes of the tariffs. I will also tell you, they do say sell in May and go away. The market has done nothing but go up since May. That's an old trader adage. You just have to be careful of any sort of big downdraft happening anytime soon. Very quickly, I just want to get the gold price. Always strong. Gold again today. Strong, just staying very 34.43. The thing, $40, $37 up again, gold. I'm telling you, I've been saying it for years. Stay with this thing. Don't sell your gold. Also, oil backed off a little, 66. But the big news today, overnight, crypto, Bitcoin hit 120,000 again overnight. And today it was playing around 118,000, 120,000. Remember, the all-time high made 2 weeks ago, 123,000. Bitcoin, I'm a trader, I've done this a long time, feels like Bitcoin is going higher. All right, folks. Let's, very, very important, almost forgot. Later in the show, we have Beth Ailes, the widow of Fox News chairman for 20 years, Roger Ailes. Beth Tilson Ailes will join us later in the show, and it's going to be a big interview. Lots of news broken there because we taped it just about a half hour ago. All right, let's find out the latest of the White House with our chief White House correspondent, the one, the only, the one Trump loves the best, Mr. Brian Glenn. Brian, really good to have you. If I may, can we just roll this on? You had a bunch of questions today. Trump really was coming to you a lot. Here's my favorite one because it's something that we talk about a lot here. Watch.
One more thing on Adam Schiff. Director Pulte reports that Adam Schiff claims he lived in a one-bedroom apartment. Now, how does a family of four, and you're a developer, a very successful developer, how does a family of four live in a one-bedroom apartment?
Now, it looks like Adam Schiff really did a bad thing. They have him. Now, let's see what happens. It's not up to me. It's not up to, I stay out of it purposely. But it's mortgage loan fraud. It's a big deal. He defrauded banks and insurance companies and the federal government. But it's very simple. It's mortgage loan fraud. And you're right. That's a lot of people to live in a one-bedroom apartment, right? But he put it down. But he has a lot of other things far worse than that. So, no, Adam Schiff, they have him 100% on mortgage fraud. Now, if there's anybody else in this room except you would have no problem. But anybody else in this room, you'd have a problem.
So, Brian Glenn, you made a great point, great question, and you love that question. For a bunch of people living in one bedroom, in Adam Schiff. Here's the funny thing, Brian. Adam Schiff is doing the same thing, probably worse than what they tried to nail Donald Trump in between his two presidencies for many, many times over in New York. Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, well, he's not the only one. We had Letitia James
also alleged mortgage fraud, putting down that her dad was actually her husband. And of course, there were some discrepancies on number of bedrooms that the house was under. Like, this is nothing new. And it seems like Adam Schiff is just the next mortgage fraud person up. And we'll see what happens. But, you know, it's interesting when President Trump says, Eric, that if it happened to you or I right now, if we were committing mortgage fraud, we would be 5 minutes to go into jail over this and being led in court. And we'll see what happens. But, you know, it's one of those things that you read about, and I don't think it gets enough attention. And, of course, I'm not relying on the guys up and down Pebble Beach to ask that question, so I had to. Interesting. Also, the other question that you did ask him about this potentially removing the capital gains on real estate purchases. Now, Trump's a real estate guy. He wants interest rates low. That's great. It generates more interest in buying real estate. Fantastic. Sparks the economy that way. But removing the capital gains on real estate, what an explosion that would be. The folks would love to see that, wouldn't they? Yeah, they would. It's in its infant stage right now, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's her bill that she's working on, and she's trying to get people to sign on to it and get it through rules and get it to the floor for a vote. Could you imagine telling the American people at the end of the year that we delivered no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security? Oh, and then guess what? If you sell your house that you've been in for 50 years, you're going to save that tax bill as well. You'll pay no capital gains. That is huge. Think about the title companies, all the companies associated with a real estate transaction, how much real estate is going to open up from a lot of the baby boomers that are sitting on property. They can't afford to sell it because they'll pay this huge tax bill. Now, the National Association of Realtors, or one of those groups, is up on the Capitol Hill right now talking to people in Congress saying, look, we want this to happen. Get behind this. So I'm just looking for the show of hands of who wants the American people to pay more taxes on their capital gains on their homes. And I would imagine, Eric, that there's a lot of Democrats that are going to stand up against this bill, but I don't know how you can. They love taxes. They never met a tax they didn't love. Brian Glenn, I know it's a little shorter this time. We appreciate your time. That's right. With us. Folks love hearing from you. Thank you again, and always good hearing from President Trump saying, that's a great question, Brian. That's fantastic. All right, thank you, Brian Glenn. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. All right, folks. So what do you do when no one wants to buy your art anymore because you're no longer the president's son? What do you do when you need to refill your coffers after your payout from USAID was cut and you're no longer the president's son?
Literally, the greatest force for diplomacy that the United States had, I can attest to from my personal experience, is USAID. Wow.
What do you do when you're strapped for cash and you're becoming irrelevant because you no longer are the president's son? Well, pardon in pocket, you take to the television and the podcast world, you talk about it. Well, the positives of taking crack, obviously.
Crack cocaine make you act any differently? No. Is it safer than alcohol? Probably. People think of crack as being dirty. It's the exact opposite. When you make crack, what you're doing is you're burning off all the impurities so that it combines with the sodium bicarbonate, which makes it smokable. That's all.
I don't know who's handling his press, but maybe if they ask you about crack, you don't really talk about the benefits and the beauty of smoking crack cocaine. That's just the former president's son right there touting the benefits of those said crack cocaine and other drugs. I don't know about you, but I strongly support Hunter Biden speaking out for 3 hours, unleashed and proudly representing the Democrat Party. These sound bites are unbelievable, folks. Get ready. So after we discovered that an AutoPen signed almost every single pardon Joe issued, except for one, I believe, after not one, not two, but three former Biden associates have pleaded the fifth, refusing to answer questions from the House Oversight Committee about what they knew and when they knew it at weekend at Biden's. 1 year since Joe dropped out of the race today, because of a coup pushed him out, is that what he says? And 4 years since the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Hunter Biden comes out, guns blazing, pardon the pun.
Opinions, but him and everybody around him are not to be nice. Number one, I agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a actor. He is a I don't know what he is. He's a brand. You, George Clooney, are going to take out basically a full-page ad in the Times to me and James Carville, who hasn't run a race in 40 years, and David Axelrod, who had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama.
Burning your bridges there, my man. You know, it really is a shame that we never figured out whose cocaine that was in the White House. What do you think? However, will we get to the bottom of whose cocaine that stash was, which was found in the White House when Joe Biden was president? Well, I guess we'll never know.
I'll tell you what, if I became president in 2 years from now, or 4 years from now, or 3 years from now, I would pick up the phone and call the president of El Salvador and say, you either send them back or I'm going to invade. It's a crime what they're doing. He's a dictator thug.
Bukele or Trump?
Both.
That was five F-bombs in 20 seconds. Seriously, anyone who watches that interview doesn't think that the stash was Hunter's in denial. 20 seconds in, he threatened to invade the country of El Salvador and actually says he's running for president in, I don't know, maybe 3 years or so. What the heck was he talking about? Not sure this guy has a chance. Well, I don't know. Well, what about this?
People are really upset about illegal immigration. You. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? How do you think you got food on your table? Who do you think washes your dishes? Who do you think does your garden?
Gee, I'm not sure I'd be doing that either, Hunter. What are you doing here, brother? You know, I'm old enough to remember when Hunter Biden lied on a federal form to get a firearm. And then when that firearm was found because his girlfriend hid it, the blame the, I don't know, probably illegal Mexicans party. Remember that? Well, no wonder he's defending them now, so to speak. By the way, these comments about illegals just prove yet again how the racist left considers them to be a slave class, right? Isn't that what you're saying? That's all the illegals are doing, cleaning your hotel rooms, picking your grapefruits. Those racist and privileged comments are typical Hunter Biden, but no, they're typical Biden, I should say. Here's the kicker of the whole thing. I'm also old enough to remember when they blamed Joe Biden's pathetic debate performance against President Trump on a cold. Remember they said he had a cold. Get this. Listen to how Hunter Biden put Joe's horrible trouncing by Trump on that debate. Listen to what he blames it on. Watch.
I know exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, and the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times.
Yeah.
He's 81 years old. He's tired as They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
They gave him Ambien to sleep. The guy couldn't stay awake. No one gave Joe Ambien before a debate. Nobody. They may have given him Adderall, not Ambien. The guy, Hunter, filthy liar. I mean, please. Someone's real grumpy he didn't get another 4 years of dad's presidency to grift off of. So his onset to mention a cold, Ambien, who knows? Folks, there are too many eye-popping moments to show you all of them. But in 3 hours, this guy gave step-by-step instructions on how to cook crack. He said the president was strung out on Ambien during the Trump debate, blamed Obama, Axelrod, Pod Save America, and George Clooney for staging a coup against his father, admitted his family relies on illegal alien slave labor, threatened to invade El Salvador to retrieve gang members, confessed the Russian disinformation laptop was his.
My question to anybody that is keeping an open mind is, what is it that you think the laptop proves, or what you call the laptop? So everybody has a laptop. So when they say Hunter Biden's laptop, what is it that they're talking about? Do you know? Not one single person has ever accused me of a crime based upon anything that was in or discovered as it relates to my laptop.
Just that would be enough. But then he also claimed Israel allowed the October 7th attack to justify invading Gaza. He argued that crack is cleaner and safer than alcohol. Folks, this guy is the perfect 2028 Democrat candidate for anything. No one, and I mean no one, will ever believe that a Ukrainian energy company actually thought that guy was a valuable board member, and no one will ever convince me or America that this man and his whole family aren't a bunch of treasonous, corrupt grifters who sucked at the teat of the American taxpayer. Let's go to Caroline Levitt.
More hostages, so I'm going to go inside and do that. I don't want to be late. I'm happy to take a couple questions. I am doing a briefing tomorrow, so we can have some more fun at 1 o'clock, but I'll take just a couple of quick questions. Go ahead. Sure.
Any insight as to when the audit and pardons may be validated? And if so, does the president have any plans to ultimately arrest Fauci? This is critical to the
I don't have any information about the pardons, but I have told you and will say again, the White House counsel's office is investigating the potential abuse of the auto pen from the previous administration. This is a really important question to get to the bottom of, and the White House is working with the Department of Justice to do that.
Caroline, should the White House support Speaker Johnson canceling the votes today over the vote over the Epstein files being released?
I'm not sure if anyone here spoke to the Speaker about that. As you know, we're always in pretty good communication with the Speaker of the House, but the President himself has said that if the Department of Justice has credible evidence, they should release it.
Caroline, on the hostages that you're going to, hostage families that you're going to be meeting with, any additional information about the release of more hostages in the days and weeks ahead?
The President has made it very clear in the proposals that he has spoken to the Israelis about, and they've agreed upon, and that have been sent to Hamas, that he wants to see the release of all of the hostages, and that includes the remains of the hostages who unfortunately lost their lives while being held hostage in Gaza. So that's a critical part of the President's efforts to draw a ceasefire and bring this war to an end. So I'm going to go inside and talk to those families about that, and I'll see you all tomorrow at the briefing. Thank you.
You guys want to respond to Obama?
Folks, Caroline Levitt. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. All right, it's a big story, folks. Big story. So let's bring in just a great person to talk about a really big story. The CEO and editor-in-chief for Just the News, No Noise. Happy always to have John Solomon on the show. John, just take us through this whole idea of what's been going on with Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, the recommendation, the criminal referral. Does it maybe lead to the actual perp walk of a Barack Obama and such and others?
Well, we're a long way from that. You can't charge the 2016 crimes alone anymore because the statute of limitations are long gone. So that's, it's great that Tulsi Gabbard sent the referral, but no one's going to charge those crimes from 2016 in 2025 because the statute has expired. The best pathway to...
John, can I stop? Can I just yeah. I have to ask you this. Unless it's treason, there's no statute of limitations on treason.
They're not. Yeah, I doubt they're going to go do treason. I mean,
seditious treason.
This Justice Department couldn't handle the release of the Epstein files, which are like candy compared to going up against the best lawyers in the world. Right?
That's a good point.
You're gonna have to. But here's the thing: the FBI opened an investigation. FBI opened an investigation in April on the grand conspiracy. You look at 2016 to 2024 as one ongoing conspiracy to use the tools of government, which are supposed to be reserved for terrorists, criminals, and spies, and turn them against the American people to try to thwart their will. First, in trying to get Donald Trump not elected, then when he was elected, to thwart his success, then when he was making his comeback, to try to prevent him from doing the comeback. In that scenario, a prosecutor can go back and charge events in 16 and 17 as part of the overt acts of a conspiracy. So it allows you to bring in stuff all the way back to May and June of 16 if you want to do it. To do that, you're not going to be able to rely on the career prosecutors at the Justice Department. They couldn't even get people convicted in the John Durham case when you had slam dunk evidence. Right? The evidence was pretty good in that case. The jury wouldn't do it. So you're going to have to go get a special prosecutor. You're going to have to move this case probably to a venue like Florida, where the overt acts of Jack Smith were clearly centered, and they're actually the more current acts. So the way these things work is you tend to seat the grand jury in the place where the most current acts are, then you wind people back historically to the plot. So a grand jury in Florida with a special prosecutor who doesn't have to rely on the career Justice Department officials to get rolling is, I think, a path that would be likely. Pam Bondi makes that decision, hands it off, lets a true special counsel staff get going. There's a real opportunity. Does Barack Obama get subpoenaed in that or in the congressional case? The first thing is they'll try to voluntarily get him to do it. If he doesn't, it's possible subpoena. Does he ultimately get named as an indicted or unindicted co-conspirator? Possible. It depends on the courage and the quality of the evidence and the courage of the prosecutors.
Allow me. RICO, conspiracy, racketeering, I believe it's 5-year statute of limitation unless something happens within the 5 years later, right? So my question is,
if it's ongoing, you can go back, but at least some of the overt acts have to occur in the 5-year period.
My question with
statute.
if it's possible that somehow, and we'll find out in discovery, if Jack Smith sent feds to Mar-a-Lago for to go through Melania's closet and whatnot. If that happened, that brings it within the 5-year statute of limitation. Now does it open up to a potential RICO conspiracy on these folks?
That's the opportunity. That is the idea that Kash Patel opened up in April. But let's think through what's happened. We are 7 months into the presidency. There are hardly any U.S. attorneys confirmed, right? There are very few U.S. attorneys confirmed. So the Justice Department is sputtering with very few people. 4 months have passed since Kash Patel first briefed everybody that he had this conspiracy case, or 3 months, excuse me. Nothing's happened. So the weak link right now is the Justice Department. I only say that not to judge the personnel, but to judge the scenario that the Justice Department has. Pam Bondi has to say, let's start the clock. I approve the conspiracy case. Here's a prosecutor assigned to your case. He's either under the jurisdiction of a U.S. attorney or he's given special counsel authority, and then you go from that point. If she doesn't do that, all we're doing is having a summer full of great talk show conversation, but we'll get the same accountability we've got for the last 9 years. All this ball rests with Pam Bondi right now. Kash Patel did his part. He opened the predicated case, which gives the Justice Department the ability to go this direction, to go the conspiracy route, the RICO route. But unless she hasn't even assigned a prosecutor to that in 3 months. We still are talking about Epstein when I thought we were going to change the subject from Epstein. So the link that makes this happen is Pam Bondi. She's either going to do it or she's not. And that is the trigger to all of this.
And John, I'm asking this question because you are one of the most dialed into DC as anyone I know. How are those relationships? I mean, forget Epstein or not. How are the relationships? Bongino, Bondi, Kash, Bondi, Bongino, Kash.
Yeah, I think Kash Patel and Pam Bondi can work together. But Kash has put the documents together. it's no good until someone gives her a prosecutor, right? There's no prosecutor assigned to the case. That is a tremendous failure of the Justice Department. It lets the president down. Now, I think Pam and Kash get along just fine. There was some tension between Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino based on his maybe outburst at a meeting. That can be fixed, or the deputy runs the department and Kash Patel does it. But once you move this to a special prosecutor, agents and prosecutors go there, and it becomes its own ecosystem, and you move on to other stuff at FBI and DOJ. So the special prosecutor route makes the most sense, but there's been very slow movement given the quality of the evidence that the president has declassified.
Yeah. What a great asset to have John Solomon come on the show and clue us into all this information, because you hear a lot of stuff flying around. John, you come on and tell us what's real, what's fake news, and what's going on, what's on its way to becoming real. John Solomon, appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Good to be with you.
All right. All right, folks, the new administration in Washington, D.C. is here. D.C. has brought a lot of positive changes when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. But the reality is that there's only so much the government can do, and that if we really want to make America healthy again, it starts at home with each and every one of us. And that's where the Wellness Company comes in. You see and hear from the Wellness Company doctors all the time on this network. And you know that their products are the gold standard for keeping you and your family safe and healthy. The Wellness Company gives you the opportunity to make sure you're prepared for whatever happens with their series of prescription medical kits that contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks, by the way, important to know, to assist in the proper use of those medications. Additionally, the Wellness Company offers a variety of products from parasite cleanses to methylene blue to weight loss and so much more that can help you stay healthy and live a longer and more satisfying life. Make America healthy again starts at home. Do your part. Protect your family and their health. Go to www.twc.health/voice today and order. That's twc.health/voice. Use the promo code VOICE and save 10%. All right, coming up later in the show, as promised, Beth Ailes, widow of Fox News Channel's chairman and CEO Roger Ailes, joins us. We'll be back 2.5 minutes from now. Well, if you're stressed about back taxes, maybe you missed the April 15th deadline, or your books are simply cooked a mess, don't wait. The IRS is cracking down this year. Penalties add up fast, 5% per month. They can get you for 25% just for not filing. That's on top of what you already owe. But there's help. Tax Network USA can take the burden off your shoulders and stop the spiral before it gets worse. They've helped thousands of Americans, whether you're an employee, a small business owner, or haven't filed in years. Messy books, no problem. They've seen it all and know exactly how to clean it up with direct access to powerful IRS programs and expert negotiators on your side. Tax Network USA knows how to win. You'll get a free consultation, and if you qualify, they may even be able to reduce or eliminate what you owe. More importantly, they'll help protect you from wage garnishments and bank levies. So don't wait for the next IRS letter to show up at your door. Call 800-905-8000, 800-905-8000, or visit tnusa.com/RAD to talk to a real tax expert at Tax Network USA. Take the pressure off. Let Tax Network USA handle your tax issues. Alrighty, folks, a little reaction to the day's news. I love the segment. Cory Booker really missed the mark with his latest attempt at ruffling feathers. He posted a video to X basically praising migrant slave labor. You got to see this to believe it. I mean, how ridiculous is it? I mean, really? Cory Booker, are you saying that all migrants, all they can do is pick asparagus? Is that what you're saying? Cory Booker. Time really does fly, folks. We're now starting August of 2025 in just about a week or so, right in the face. We're a full 259 days removed from the 2024 presidential election, and yet this guy, Eric Swalwell, is still talking about Kamala Harris and coming up with new ways to justify her overwhelming defeat. Listen to this guy.
Congressman, I mean, if you could give us just one line, I mean, what did you learn from the 2024 election? What should Democrats not do next time?
Well, we have to always be on. And let me just give you an example. Most people say that the biggest mistake that Kamala Harris made was saying that she wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden when she went on The View. I don't think that was the biggest mistake. And candidates, trip up all the time. I think the mistake was that there were many days that would pass before she did another major interview. And Donald Trump makes 3 mistakes an hour, but he's always on. And so when you're always communicating, not just to cable news, but to local news, to podcasters, to influencers, always on means you're always honest. And we have the values on our side, and now we just have to be in more places, more spaces, and that's why we're going to win the midterms in just under 18 months.
yeah, okay. They still don't get it, but it's fine. As usual, I couldn't disagree with Congressman Eric Swalwell more. I think America saw plenty of Kamala Harris. In fact, I could even argue that we're all way over seeing any more Kamala Harris forever, which is why the American people overwhelmingly decided that we didn't really want to see any more of her after the election. Does Swalwell really think people are sitting at home reminiscing about moments like this?
The governor and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children.
4 times. 4 times the passage of time. What the hell is the significance of it? Yeah, we get older, I get it, but there's great significance to the past. This is the one that wanted to be president. This one's interesting. A former Biden administration official just came out and said that the former president should have bowed out of the race even earlier than he actually did. Listen.
What Hunter Biden didn't say is that people started losing confidence in Joe Biden, whom I love, who I work for in his administration, right after the Afghanistan debacle. Do you remember that? It was August of 2022. Like, his polling never recovered after Afghanistan. And people voted for Biden, right, because of competence, in part because of competence. And so the midterms, I think, gave the Biden team a little more confidence that than they should have had, but that was the moment where he really should have bowed out, and we should have had a robust primary process.
We all know what is actually happening. Everyone saw it. Everyone saw it. We saw it on the right. We clarity. We posted every time he fell or couldn't remember where he was or called out looking for the congresswoman who had died the week before. He didn't know where he was half the time. Where do I go? Wandered off into the woods at NATO. We knew he wasn't there. The left saw it too, but they couldn't figure out how to get him out if he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave until he had the disastrous debate performance, which probably made him realize he was done, cooked, and if George Clooney says, I'm cooked, he walked away, and Hunter Biden now says because he took Ambien. They're all full of you-know-what, folks. Beto O'Rourke, I think his name is Robert Francis O'Rourke, but he calls himself Beto. Maybe call him Beta. Beto O'Rourke has been making the rounds this week, and he just dropped a pretty bold prediction. Beto thinks we're heading towards a civil war. He even admitted that the Democrats are violent. Listen to this, and let's hope he's wrong as usual.
Is America a tyrannical country now?
It is descending into it as quickly as anyone has seen, anyone in living memory. We've never seen a crisis of constitution, rule of law, or government of the people, by the people, for the people, since perhaps the attacks that preceded the Civil War and the loss of more than 300,000 Union dead to preserve this country as a free nation and to end slavery and defeat the Confederacy. I sure as hell hope that this does not descend into further violence and armed conflict. I want us to resolve this democratically, peacefully, and nonviolently. But within those parameters, let us do everything that we can, because if we fail to do that, the other side is going to consolidate this power, and it might very well spell the end of this noble experiment.
Beto realizes that the Republican Party ended slavery. You realize that, Beto? The Republican Party ended slavery. It was actually the Whig Party as a precursor to the Republican Party. So, okay, let's be honest here a little bit. Kevin O'Leary does a pretty good job. Don't love the guy, but does a decent job of holding radicals accountable when he sits on these crazy CNN panels. Mr. Wonderful was on CNN the other night, and he smacked down blatant lies about the economy under Trump in real time. Listen.
3 years from now, I think Trump has eroded global trust in the American economy and American deal making.
You mean the all-time high market ever in history?
It's high because they don't believe.
The all-time high.
They think Trump is going to chicken.
Never been higher. Never been worth more. Never been more successful. Never.
When the liberation
eroded trust, all-time high today at 4:30 in history. Never worth more. What are you talking about?
Well, let's see what happens on August 1st when he announces
the American
up to 50%.
I mean, all-time high stock market. I know a lot of people don't care about that. That guy, Kevin O'Leary, does. You know, people care about prices. Prices are substantially down from when Donald Trump took over. In the 6 months he's been here, prices have slid dramatically. Fuel prices, food prices, rent prices. Inflation is 2.7%. It was 9.9 at the peak of Biden. So stock market, fine. I always talk about the stock market. A healthy stock market is a healthy economy. Absolutely. Can't have a healthy economy with a dying stock market. Just can't have it. So you want it all working together. But the real kicker that Trump has done, the real positive he's brought to this country is lowering inflation to a manageable level. He wants it a little lower. He'll get it there. AOC is so far gone that we all pretty much have accepted that fact, and the fact that she's going to say whatever she wants, whenever she wants, regardless of how radical it may sound. She gave a speech and in closing encouraged the audience to look out for the, quote, little trans kid who may be looking up to all of us. Listen to this head scratcher.
And I know that whether you're standing up in this room or you're walking down the street, there are little trans kids that look at you and say, there's a future possible for me. So,
1.4% of America are trans. So little trans kids is like, I don't know, 1 or 2% of this country. This is who you're talking about, AOC? And you want to be president? And you know she wants to be president, right? You know she wants to be president, right? Keep barking up that tree, my dear. Keep barking up that tree. All right, before we head to break, I want to remind you about my podcast YouTube page, both updated daily. You can hear tons of content that we don't posts here. Stuff we don't do here, we do a lot more over on that other page. You'll see all these interviews. Just go there, subscribe. Also, don't forget the voicemails. Now, I promised voicemails today, but I think I'm not going to have time to do them because we have a very, very special guest coming up. Beth Ailes, the widow of Fox News Channel's chairman and CEO Roger Ailes, joins us, and it's explosive, folks. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. All right, let's definitely welcome, it's an honor to welcome, Roger Ailes' devoted widow who had a front row seat to the Murdoch, let's call them shenanigans, for more than 20 years she did. Beth was there the day they started the Fox News channel and witnessed the takedown, which occurred, coincidentally, 9 years ago today. Beth Ailes, welcome to the Bolling Show. Good to have you back, my friend.
Great to be with
Beth,
you.
I called you immediately when I saw what was going on with these, the Murdochs with they own the Wall Street Journal, but Fox News, Trump brought 19 folks from Fox News into his administration. There's a mutual back scratching going on there. But then Murdoch has the Wall Street Journal publish a letter that allegedly Donald Trump claims he did not ever write. Tell us, work us through this. How does Wall Street Journal have one way of doing things? Fox News have another way of doing it. Murdoch's overseeing all of this, and Trump is at the center of all these things going on, especially with your bird's eye view of this whole thing developing over the last 20 years.
Well, the last time I joined you, you may recall that I talked about Rupert being a jealous man. And I know that sounds like a very simple concept, but he's a globalist. He was jealous of Roger Ailes. Remember, when Roger Ailes created the Fox News channel, it was just an idea, and it was called Fair and Balanced. And the other motto was, we report, you decide. And so he built the channel on that foundation, and he never strayed from it, and he made it look easy. So at the end of his 20 years there, he had created a $20 billion asset that was going to throw off $2 billion in July of 2016. Now think about that, an idea that he made a reality, which he crafted and built from nothing. Now, I've always said Rupert deserves the credit for rolling the dice and writing a check, but I also know that anybody can write a check. And so a globalist like Rupert wrote a check. He had a loyal, incredible genius at his disposal 24/7 for 20 years. And then I believe he realized that Roger had eclipsed him on the world stage. And so he sought to take him out and take him down. Now, it was hard to believe 9 years ago today that Roger stepped down. He resigned. And I think he thought naively that the attacks would stop, but in fact, they were stepped up when he left. I believe that Rupert is a jealous man, jealous of Donald Trump. And, you know, from the time that Roger built the channel to this day, the Murdochs have immersed themselves, poured themselves into the brand that Roger, poured his soul into building. And they wear it like a skin suit. But the problem is they have no soul. So Rupert's very capable of being one way to the Fox News audience and another to the Wall Street Journal. And the day that you called me and texted me about coming on to speak to you, I went to the Fox News website and there was nothing about a Trump lawsuit there. So there's your, he's quite capable of compartmentalizing.
So, Beth, you say that Rupert's jealous of Trump, and I agree with you. I was there for 14 or so of the years that Roger was there as well, and there was always a bit of a strained relationship between Rupert and Roger. Roger's brilliant. I've always said Donald Trump is the second best TV producer ever to walk the earth, ever. And the first being Roger Ailes.
I agree. I think that Roger and Donald, and I say that with great respect for the president, they were cut from the same cloth. They had a love of America that penetrated their beings. And I believe that if Roger were alive today, he and the president would be, things would be very different because Roger was very careful. He never wanted a relationship with the president to undermine the first and foremost responsibility of the channel, which was to be fair and balanced. During Roger's tenure, he never had a lawsuit. He never had to take down a story. Now, think about how many lawsuits there have been against Fox News. The Dominion voting systems lawsuit being one of the most memorable, with a $700 million settlement. Something that hit me when I was thinking about this segment also was that during the deposition and discovery in the Dominion suit, it was revealed that Rupert had written an email saying, "We are going to make Trump a non-person." Now think about that. He was at the time the president of the United States. And here's a global mogul saying we're going to make him a non-person. And I think that Rupert's so capable of that because his whole mission upon Roger's resignation was to take everything that was Roger Ailes and, except for profitability, undo everything Roger did. And they turned it into a rage machine. And I think they have done that so much that the channel itself is undone, and they have undermined Fair and Balanced, and they have betrayed Fox Nation, another entity that Roger started. And remember, their motto was the most powerful name in news. And I think that, unfortunately, Mr. Murdoch has that conflated with his own last name instead of it being the branding of the channel.
Interesting.
And so if you go back to when he said he was going to make Trump a non-person, he was talking about the president. Fast forward to this Epstein 50th birthday Wall Street Journal article, which President Trump asked Murdoch not to run, warning him that it was fake, that he vehemently denied the authenticity of the drawing and the supposed back and forth. But Rupert and his minion, Robert Thompson, decided to go forward with it, truth be damned. And I think that speaks to his need for power, even though he is chairman emeritus. All this follow-up coverage makes him relevant, and he thrives on that.
Beth, very interesting. So many questions. Why do you think Rupert decided to print the letter that they believed? And by the way, he had to know a lawsuit was coming. Trump has already sued CBS, ABC, others. He had to know the lawsuit was coming. Why would he do it?
Well, and I'd also like to point out those entities were sued successfully, and the president may very well have a very successful run here with his lawsuit. I think that Rupert down deep is a globalist who hates the MAGA base. Remember, the globalists make money when the MAGA base is impotent and enraged. So any story hit piece that he okayed on Trump helps his profitability because people are going to tune in to see what's going on. And again, I think that Trump was not Mr. Murdoch was not a supporter of Trump. He wanted Roger to support Hillary, and of course, Roger would not do that. So like I said, after Roger left, they created a version of Fox that I call Muir Fox, Murdoch Fox. And it is certainly not the Ailes Fox that we all knew and participated in its growth and meteoric rise.
Early on, Beth, early on when Trump, before obviously he ran for president, but years prior to that, there was rumblings of Trump wanting to be president. Roger put Donald Trump on every Monday on Fox and Friends. I used to host that show, occasionally. And Mondays were my favorite days. So I knew I'd be able to talk to Trump about business and the economy and things like that. But early on, and I remember the animosity that Roger got, even from the Murdochs, for doing that. They pushed back from the very beginning of this whole idea of Trump becoming a bigger personality using the Fox News Channel airwaves.
Well, that's because the Murdochs are not MAGA. They don't want their empire used for American nationalism. They are first and foremost globalists. And so when Roger laid the pipe by putting Trump on, I would argue that it was that decision and those appearances on Mondays that helped lay the groundwork for his eventual run and sweeping, success in the election. The 2016 election was the greatest upset in American history. It was bigger than Nixon, it was bigger than Reagan, and it was not supposed to happen. And when it happened, the globalists panicked. Right, so, this guy that was going to take on third world countries in Europe and say, hey, wait a minute, we're going to put the American people first. Our infrastructure, healthcare, is crumbling. Why are we trying to build democracies across the globe and support their infrastructure and their health care with American taxpayer dollars?
Beth,
that resonated.
Do me a favor. I want to call an audible here. Can you stick around for 1 minute? We're going to go to a quick break. And I want to bring you back and talk to you a little bit more because this is a fascinating conversation. Folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes with more from Beth Ailes, Roger Ailes' beloved widow. continuing a fascinating few minutes with Beth Ailes, the beloved widow of Roger Ailes, the man who really started and made Fox News what it was. It's a completely different entity right now, almost recognizable from my 12 or 13 years I spent there. Beth, really good having you. Talk to us a little bit about this relationship between Trump and Fox News. Obviously, Trump takes shots at Murdoch left and right, maybe to get more coverage, I don't know, but then he pulls 19 folks from the news channel into his administration. Why? What? Can you decipher this relationship?
Well, I think it's complex. I do remember that in 2015, when Roger was actually in the hospital having spinal stenosis surgery, and Rupert was calling all the time, and Trump was starting to gain traction, and Roger said to him, you've got to be careful. You've got to run the channel without compromising. And so there's this, sort of this imaginary line, and I don't think Rupert understood that. He wanted access to the power, but didn't know how to maneuver around it. I think that Trump had a quality that I like to believe, and I know Roger had a big heart. He was capable of forgiving people for their foibles, for their flaws. And so when I read that Murdoch said he wanted to make Trump a non-person, I would not have welcomed Murdoch back into my orbit, no matter how powerful he was. I'd have kept him at arm's length. And I think the president has a big heart, and he's willing to look the other way. And as people have said, just a few months ago, he was singing Rupert's praises. But when you're dealing with someone who is jealous of your power, I think it was a mistake to think that he could believe that Rupert was on his side. And so when he realized he was going to run this hit piece, Truth Be Damned, I think he did the only thing he can do, which is to file this lawsuit. I also think that the lawsuits about, defamation, libel, slander, I think that any public person is at a huge disadvantage because it's almost impossible to prove. And I think that if we had the laws that they have, say, in Britain, where the person who says something false, whether it's a public figure or not, has to then pay the damages, we need some reform in those laws, I think.
Beth, I got about 2 minutes left, minute and a half, 2 minutes. Please, if Roger Ailes were still running Fox News Channel, I wish I would still be there. I wish he was. If he were running right now, and Rupert Murdoch said, I'm going to run this article, run this letter in Wall Street Journal. I remember some of those clashes between Roger and even the Sons. How would it play out? And I hate to do this to you, but I only have about a minute or so.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to say, do you think that James or Lachlan voted for President Trump? There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they would never have voted for someone who was going to create the alligator Alcatraz or close the border. American exceptionalism is a real thing. And even 10 years ago, it was still there, the idea that America had a culture. And what has President Biden and his minions done but come in and flooded our country? And it will take 10 million deportations to get us back to where we were in 2020. They were trying to change the entire electorate, in my opinion. And I think that Roger would have counseled Rupert that it was a terrible mistake to go with, there's no proof of this so-called item that was entered into the 50th birthday remembrance book for Jeff Epstein. There are records of Rupert having an association with Jeff Epstein. They traveled in the same social circles, but that gets a big yawn from people. Rupert asked a guy.
It may not. It may not.
Well,
in light
I'm just
of
saying.
The last,
Up until
3
now,
weeks.
I don't see anybody looking into that. But anything
may
about
have
Trump,
opened
the
up
orange man.
A whole can of worms here late in this interview, but certainly something we may be on the lookout for. My dear Beth, we're gonna have to leave it right here, and I just want to tell the folks in full transparency, over Beth's left shoulder, screen right shoulder, is the portrait of Roger Ailes, and I personally have been in that library many times when Roger would tell stories, whole court, to some of the most influential, powerful people in the world. And everyone was captivated by what that man had to say. Beth.
And I will always remember and love him for that. He
And
was
we
a
all
great
do.
American, and it was very unfair what they did to him. And that's the thing that President Trump, I don't think understands. Rupert will do anything. He's just capable of it. So.
All right, we leave it right there. Beth Ailes, I appreciate your time. The folks do as well. Thank you.
See you next time.
Fascinating. Was Rupert Murdoch on the Epstein list? First I heard of that. Fascinating stuff from Beth Ailes, a good friend of mine. I hope you enjoyed that, folks. We blew out the voicemail segment so we could bring you the rest of the Beth Ailes interview. We will do voicemails again. Let's do them tomorrow. Let's get some voicemails and so send them in. You gave me about 200 yesterday about whether Barack Obama should be in jail or not. There was overwhelmingly voting yes. We'll play some of those, play some of these. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about Trump, Fox News, Roger Ailes. Let me know what you think. Use that number right there, 888-601-0032. I'd love to hear what you think of what you just heard over the last 17 interview minutes, which is a lot. It's an eternity in cable news and news, folks. All right, guys, War Room's up next. I believe Natalie Winters will be at the driver's seat. War Room.
Mr. President, do you support the Justice Department seeking a new interview with Ghislaine Maxwell and George, the Attorney General, to see?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
Your Deputy Attorney General has reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given...
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal.